Hey guys, in this month's Historical Fiction 101, we're going to be talking about the Goodreads nominees for Historical Fiction for 2019. So it's another year, end of year, best of nominations and whatnot. Goodreads has posted up their annual categories about the best in fiction, the best in science fiction, the best cookbooks, the best young adult, the best whatever, in various different book-related categories. So yeah, my particular favorite category is obviously the historical fiction category. So yeah, this video is just gonna be, if you're not aware, it's just going to be sharing the books that Goodreads, the top 20 books that Goodreads has chosen as the best in historical fiction. So yeah, let's get going. Like I said, there's 20 books we gotta get here, guys. And just to make this video flow a little bit quicker, I'm going to be reading from the computer, just giving you guys the synopsis. And yeah, if you're interested in the books, go check them out. First up, The Nichol Boys by Colson Whitehead. And apparently this is based on a real story of a reform school in Florida that, like, abused hundreds of little kids and everything, which sounds terrible. So yeah, what is the plot of this book? As the civil rights movement begins to reach the black enclave of Frenchtown in segregated Tallahassee, Elwood Curtis takes the words of Dr. Martin Luther King to heart. He is as good as anyone. Abandoned by his parents, but kept on the straight and narrow by his grandmother, Elwood is a high school senior about to start classes at a local college. But for a black boy in the Jim Crow South of the early 1960s, one innocent mistake is enough to destroy the future. Elwood is sentenced to a juvenile reformatory called the Nichol Academy, whose mission statement says it provides physical, intellectual, and moral training so the delinquent boys in their charge can become honorable and honest men. In reality, the Nichol Academy is a grotesque chamber of horrors where the sadistic staff beats and sexually abuses the students. Corrupt officials and locals steal food and supplies, and any boy who resists is likely to disappear out back. Stunned to find himself in such a vicious environment, Elwood tries to hold onto Dr. King's ringing assertion, "Throw us in jail and we will still love you." His friend Turner thinks Elwood is worse than naive, that the world is crooked, and that the only way to survive is to scheme and avoid trouble. The tension between Elwood's ideals and Turner's skepticism leads to a decision with repercussions that will echo down the decades. Formed in the crucible of the evils Jim Crow wrought, the boys' fates will be determined by what they endured at the Nichol Academy. Oh wow, this sounds good. You guys, this sounds really good. I'll have to definitely keep my eyes out on this one. Next up, What the Wind Knows by Amy Harmon. Anne Gallagher grew up enchanted by her grandfather's stories of Ireland. Heartbroken at his death, she travels to his childhood home to spread his ashes. There, overcome with memories of the man she adored and consumed by a history she never knew, she is pulled into another time. The Ireland of 1921, teetering on the edge of war, is a dangerous place in which to awaken. But there Anne finds herself, hurt, disoriented, and under the care of Dr. Thomas Smith, guardian to a young boy who's oddly familiar. Mistaken for the boy's long-missing mother, Anne adopts her identity, convinced the woman's disappearance is connected to her own. As tensions rise, Thomas joins the struggle for Ireland's independence, and Anne is drawn into the conflict beside him. Caught between history and her heart, she must decide whether she's willing to let go of the life she knew for love she never thought she'd find. But in the end, is the choice actually hers to make? So this sounds almost like Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. Almost, there's a bit of time travel, that this woman is plucked from her current time and then thrown into 1921 Ireland. So yeah, if you like that sort of historical fiction with like a time travel element, this might be particularly good for you. The Island of Sea Women by Lisa C. This is a book that I do own, but I have yet to read it, unfortunately. Set on the Korean island of Jeju? Jeju? Is that how it's pronounced, you guys? I'm sorry if I'm butchering that. Set on the Korean island of Jeju, the Island of Sea Women follows Mi-ja and Young-suk, two girls from very different backgrounds, as they begin working in the sea with their village's all-female diving collective. Over many decades, through the Japanese colonialism of 1930s and 1940s, World War II, the Korean War, and the era of cell phones and wetsuits for the women divers, Mi-ja and Young-suk developed the closest of bonds. Nevertheless, their differences are impossible to ignore. Mi-ja is the daughter of a Japanese collaborator, forever marking her, and Young-suk was born into a long line of Haenyeo? And will inherit her mother's position, leading the divers. After hundreds of dives and years of friendship, forces outside their control will push their relationship to the breaking point. So yeah, that sounds really good. Seriously, like I said, I own this book. I haven't read it yet, but I love the premise of it. Next up, The Book of Troublesome Creek by Kim Michelle Richardson. This book is about, let's see, the hardscrabble folks of Troublesome Creek have to scrape for everything except books, that is. Thanks to Roosevelt's Kentucky Pack Horse Library Project, Troublesome's got its very own traveling librarian, Cussie Mary Carter. Cussie's not only a bookwoman, however, she's also the last of her kind. Her skin, a shade of blue, unlike most anyone else. Not everyone is keen on Cussie's family or the library project, and a blue is often blamed for any whiff of trouble. If Cussie wants to bring the joy of books to the hill folks, she's going to have to confront prejudice as old as the Appalachians and suspicion as deep as the holler. And yeah, this says that this is actually inspired by the true blue-skinned people of Kentucky, which is a real thing, you guys, because I had to look this up. I was like, wait, is this true? And it is true. Go look up the photos. So yeah, based off of a true story. This sounds really good, and it says it takes place in the 1930s as well. Next up, City of Girls by Elizabeth Gilbert. This takes place it's a love story that takes place in New York City theater world during the 1940s, told from the perspective of an older woman as she looks back on her youth with both pleasure and regret, but mostly pleasure. City of Girls explores themes of female sexuality and promiscuity, as well as the idiosyncrasies of true love. So yeah, in 1940, 19-year-old Vivian Morris has just been kicked out of Vassar College, owing to her lackluster freshman year performance. Her affluent parents sent her to Manhattan to live with her Aunt Peg, who owns a flamboyant, crumbling midtown theater called the Lily Playhouse. There, Vivian is introduced to an entire cosmos of unconventional and charismatic characters, from the fun-chasing showgirls to a sexy male actor, a grand dame actress, a lady killer writer, and no-nonsense stage manager. But when Vivian makes a personal mistake that results in professional scandal, it turns her new world upside down in ways that it will take her years to fully understand. Ultimately, though, it leads her to a new understanding of the kind of life she craves and the kind of freedom it takes to pursue it. It will also lead to the love of her life, a love that stands out from all the rest. Oh, that sounds sweet. And next up, Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And this is based off of a true story, I guess? Based off of a real band from the 1970s. I've never heard of this band, you guys. Seriously. I didn't know this is based off of a true story. Am I just ignorant? I guess maybe I'm just ignorant. Anyway, everyone knows Daisy Jones and the Six. The band's album, Aurora, came to define the rock and roll era of the late 70s, and an entire generation of girls wanted to grow up to be Daisy. But no one knows the reason behind the group's split on the night of their final concert at Chicago Stadium on July 12, 1979, until now. Daisy is a girl coming of age in LA in the late 60s, sneaking into clubs on the Sunset Strip, sleeping with rock stars, and dreaming of singing at the Whiskey A Go-Go. The sex and drugs are thrilling, but it's the rock and roll she loves most. By the time she's 20, her voice is getting noticed, and she has the kind of heedless beauty that makes people do crazy things. Also getting noticed is the Six, a band led by the brooding Billy Dunn. On the eve of their first tour, his girlfriend Camilla finds out she's pregnant, and with the pressure of impending fatherhood and fame, Billy goes a little wild on the road. Daisy and Billy cross paths when a producer realizes that the key to supercharged success is to put the two together. What happens next will become the stuff of legend. The making of that legend is chronicled in this riveting and unforgettable novel written as an oral history of one of the biggest bands of the 70s. Like I said, I've never heard of this band. Yeah, guys, I've never heard of this band. I feel like I need to ask my parents if they know who these people are, because I've never heard of them. Next up, this is a book that I do own, but unfortunately I have not gotten around to it yet. And this is actually a book that I'm very surprised got nominated this year, because it doesn't even have very many reviews on Goodreads. It only has 108 reviews on Goodreads, but it managed to get into the top 20 nominations somehow. And yeah, this is Nottingham by Nathan McCarrick. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And really all you need to know about this book is that it is a retelling of the Robin Hood legend, obviously. So yeah, no king, no rules, England, 1191. King Richard is half a world away, fighting for God and his own ambition. Back home, his country languishes bankrupt and on the verge of anarchy. People with power are running unchecked, people without are grown angry, and in Nottingham, one of the largest shires in England, the sheriff seems intent on doing nothing about it. As the leaves turn gold in the Sherwood Forest, the lives of 6 people, Arable, a servant girl with a secret, Robin and William, soldiers running from their pasts, Marian, a noblewoman working for change, Guy of Gisborne, Nottingham's beleaguered guard captain, and Elena Gamwell, a brash, ambitious thief. All of these characters become intertwined, and a strange story begins to spread. So yeah, obviously, the making of the legend that is Robin Hood, it sounds like. Seriously, I can't wait to read this book, because I love all things Robin Hood, you guys. Next up, this is a book that it came out and I wish I had got it, because yeah, now it's here nominated. I wish I had got this book. I don't know why I never got around to this book, you guys. I'm just so upset. Because I have previously enjoyed other books by Pam Jenoff, but yeah, for whatever reason I just never got around to this book. This is The Lost Girls of Paris by Pam Jenoff, taking place in 1946 Manhattan. So yeah, Grace Healy is rebuilding her life after losing her husband during the war. One morning, while passing through Grand Central Terminal on her way to work, she finds an abandoned suitcase tucked beneath a bench. Unable to resist her own curiosity, Grace opens the suitcase, where she discovers a dozen photographs, each of a different woman. In a moment of impulse, Grace takes the photographs and quickly leaves the station. Grace soon learns that the suitcase belonged to a woman named Eleanor Trigg, leader of a ring of female secret agents who were deployed out of London during the war. 12 of these women were sent to occupied Europe as couriers and radio operators to aid the resistance, but they never returned home, their fates a mystery. Setting out to learn the truth behind the women in the photographs, Grace finds herself drawn to a young mother-turned-agent named Marie, whose daring mission overseas reveals a remarkable story of friendship, valor, and betrayal. And yeah, this does say that it's inspired by true events. Next up, The Giver of Stars by Jojo Moyes. And yeah, this says that it takes place in Depression-era America. Alice Wright marries handsome American Bennett Van Cleve, hoping to escape her stifling life in England. But small-town Kentucky quickly proves equally claustrophobic, especially living alongside her overbearing father-in-law. So when a call goes out for a team of women to deliver books as part of Eleanor Roosevelt's new traveling library, Alice signs on enthusiastically. The leader, and soon Alice's greatest ally, is Marjorie, a smart-talking, self-sufficient woman who's never asked a man's permission for anything. They will be joined by 3 other singular women who become known as the Packhorse Librarians of Kentucky. What happens to them and to the men they love becomes an unforgettable drama of loyalty, justice, humanity, and passion. These heroic women refuse to be cowed by men or by convention, and though they face all kinds of dangers in a landscape that is at times breathtakingly beautiful, at others brutal, they committed to their job, bringing books to people who have never had any. arming them with facts that will change their lives. And yeah, once again, based off of a true story. And that's just funny that there's 2 books this year that are nominated that take place during this time and that are about the what is it called on here? That are about the pack horse librarians of Kentucky. Because yeah, the other book that I mentioned earlier about the blue-skinned people of Kentucky, yeah, it's the same, it's almost the same thing. It's set during the same time in the same place. Next up, Lost Roses by Martha Hall Kelly. It is 1914 and the world has been on the brink of war so many times, many New Yorkers treat the subject with only passing interest. Eliza Faraday is thrilled to be traveling to St. Petersburg with Sophia how's this? Stresnavia? I probably got that wrong, you guys. A cousin of the Romanovs. The two met years ago one summer in Paris and became close confidants. Now Eliza embarks on the trip of a lifetime, home with Sophia to see the splendors of Russia. But when Austria declares war on Serbia and Russia's imperial dynasty begins to fall, Eliza escapes back to America while Sophia and her family flee to their country estate. In need of domestic help, they hire the local fortune teller's daughter, Varenka, unknowingly bringing intense danger into their household. On the other side of the Atlantic, Eliza is doing her part to help the White Russian families find safety as they escape the revolution. But when Sophia's letters suddenly stop coming, she fears the worst for her best friend. Oh, dear God. Next up, Summer of '69 by Ellen Hilderbrand. Welcome to the most tumultuous summer of the 20th century. It's 1969, and for the Levin family, the times they are changing. Every year, the children have looked forward to spending the summer at their grandmother's historic home in downtown Nantucket. But this year, Blair, the oldest sister, is marooned in Boston, pregnant with twins and unable to travel. Middle sister Kirby, a nursing student, is caught up in the thrilling vortex of civil rights protests, a passion which takes her to Martha's Vineyard with her best friend Mary Jo Koppenstein. Only son Tiger is an infantry soldier recently deployed to Vietnam. 13-year-old Jessie suddenly feels like an only child, marooned in the house with her out-of-touch grandmother who is hiding some secrets of her own. As the summer heats up, Teddy Kennedy sinks a car in Chappaquiddick, a man flies to the moon, and Jessie experiences some sinking and flying herself as she grows into her own body and mind. God, it sounds like there's a lot going on in this book, you guys. Next up, The Dutch House by Anne Patchett. At the end of the Second World War, Cyril Conroy combines luck and a single canny investment to begin an enormous real estate empire, propelling his family from poverty to enormous wealth. His first order of business is to buy the Dutch House, a lavish estate in the suburbs outside of Philadelphia. Meant as a surprise for his wife, the house sets in motion the undoing of everyone he loves. Uh-oh. The story is told by Cyril's son Danny, as he and his older sister, the brilliantly and self-assured Maeve, are exiled from the house where they grew up by their stepmother. The two wealthy siblings are thrown back into the poverty their parents had escaped from and find that all they have to count on is one another. It is this unshakable bond between them that both saves their lives and thwarts their futures. Set over the course of 5 decades, The Dutch House is a dark fairy tale about 2 smart people who cannot overcome their past. Despite every outward sign of success, Danny and Maeve are only truly comfortable when they're together. Throughout their lives, they return to the well-worn story of what they've lost with humor and rage, but when at last they're forced to confront the people who left them behind, the relationship between an indulged brother and his ever-protective sister is finally tested. Next up, this is also another book that I own, but I haven't read yet. You guys, what is wrong with me? This is Once Upon a River by Diane Setterfield. On a dark midwinter's night in an ancient inn on the River Thames, an extraordinary event takes place. The regulars are telling stories to while away the dark hours when the door bursts open on a grievously wounded stranger. In his arms is the lifeless body of a small child. Hours later, the girl stirs, takes a breath, and returns to life. Is it a miracle? Is it magic? Or can science provide an explanation? These questions have many answers, some of them quite dark indeed. Those who dwell on the riverbank apply all their ingenuity to solving the puzzle of the girl who died and lived again. Yet as the days pass, the mystery only deepens. The child herself is mute and unable to answer the essential questions. Who is she? Where did she come from? And to whom does she belong? But answers proliferate nonetheless. These families are keen to claim her. Three families are keen to claim her. A wealthy young mother knows the girl is her kidnapped daughter, missing for 2 years. A farming family, reeling from the discovery of their son's secret liaison. You know what I'm trying to say, guys. I can't pronounce it right now. They stand ready to welcome their granddaughter. The parson's housekeeper, humble and isolated, sees in the child the image of her younger sister. But the return of a lost child is not without complications, and no matter how heartbreaking the past losses, no matter how precious the child herself, this girl cannot be everyone's. Each family has mysteries of its own, and many secrets must be revealed before the girl's identity can be known. Oh, this sounds good. Like I said, I have this book, but I haven't read it, and there's a reason that I picked this book up, because it sounds pretty awesome. Okay, a book that I have actually read, you guys. I'm proud of myself. That is The Night Tiger by Yang Zi Chu. This is definitely one of my top favorite books that I've read this year. It's probably going to be my number 2 favorite book. There is another book on this list that's going to be my number 1, but we have not got there yet. But yeah, The Night Tiger is definitely going to be like my number 2, I think. So yeah, The Night Tiger by Yang Zi Chu. When 11-year-old Ren's master dies, he makes one last request of his Chinese houseboy, that Ren find his severed finger, lost years ago in an accident, and reunite it with his body. Ren has 49 days, or else his master's soul will roam the earth unable to rest in peace. Ji Lin always wanted to be a doctor, but as a girl in 1930s Malaysia, apprentice dressmaker is a more suitable occupation. Secretly, though, Ji Lin also moonlights as a dance hall girl to help pay off her beloved mother's mahjong debts. One night, Ji Lin's dance partner leaves her with a gruesome souvenir, a severed finger. Convinced the finger is bad luck, Ji Lin enlists the help of her erstwhile stepbrother to return it to its rightful owner. As the 49 days tick down and a prowling tiger wreaks havoc on the town, Li Jin and Ren's lives intertwine in ways they could never have imagined. So yeah, that's all I need to know about this book. There's a tiny bit left, but that's all you need to know. I love this book, you guys. I absolutely freaking adored it. I love the story and the characters, just everything going on. I highly recommend it. Next up, This Tender Land by William Kent Kruger. What is it about? Taking place in Minnesota in 1932, the Lincoln School is a pitiless place where hundreds of Native American children, forcibly separated from their parents, are sent to be educated. It is also home to an orphan named Odie O'Banion, a lively boy whose exploits earn him the superintendent's wrath. Forced to flee, he and his brother Albert, their best friend Mose, and a broken-hearted little girl named Emmy is still away in a canoe, heading for the mighty Mississippi and a place to call their own. Over the course of one unforgettable summer, these 4 orphans will journey into the unknown and cross paths with others who are adrift, from struggling farmers and traveling faith healers to displaced families and lost souls of all kinds. With the feel of a modern classic, This Tender Land is an enthralling, big-hearted epic that shows how the magnificent American landscape connects us all, haunts our dreams, and makes us whole. Next up, The Water Dancer by an author whose name I'm going to butcher just now, you guys. That is Ta-Nehisi Coates? Ta-Nehisi Coates. I probably just pronounced it totally wrong. Young Hiram Walker was born into bondage. When his mother was sold away, Hiram was robbed of all memory of her, but was gifted with a mysterious power. Years later, when Hiram almost drowns in a river, that same power saves his life. This brush with death brings an urgency in Hiram and a daring scheme to escape from the only home he's ever known. So begins an unexpected journey that takes Hiram from the corrupt grandeur of Virginia's proud plantations to desperate guerrilla cells in the wilderness, from the coffin of the Deep South to dangerously utopic movements in the North. Even as he's enlisted in the underground war between slavers and the enslaved, Hiram's resolve to rescue the family he left behind endures. Next up, this is also a book that I own, but I haven't read it. is it Silka's Journey? Silka, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Silka's Journey by Heather Morris. Based off of a true story, it tells one woman's survival at Auschwitz during the war, only to find herself locked away again after the war, it sounds like. Based off of a real woman, it sounds like, named Silke Klein. She is 18 years old when Auschwitz-Birkenau is liberated by Soviet soldiers, but Silke is one of the many women who was sentenced to a labor camp on charges of having helped the Nazis. With no consideration of the circumstances Silke and women like her found themselves in as they struggled to survive. Once at the Vorkuta Gulag in Siberia, where she is to serve her 15-year sentence, Silke uses her wits, charm, and beauty to survive. Sounds right up my alley, you guys. Next up, another book I've read, but haven't read. That's The Summer Country by Lauren Willig, taking place from Bristol to Barbados in 1854. Emmy Dawson has always been the poor cousin in a prosperous merchant clan, merely a vicar's daughter, and a reform-minded vicar's daughter at that. Everyone knows that the family's lucrative shipping business will go to her cousin, Adam, one day, but when her grandfather dies, Emily receives an unexpected inheritance, the sugar plantation in Barbados, a plantation her grandfather never told anyone he owned. When Emily accompanies her cousin and his new wife to Barbados, she finds this estate a burnt-out shell, reduced to ruins. In 1816, when a rising of enslaved people sent the island up in flames. Rumors swirl around the derelict plantation. People whisper of ghosts. Why would her practical-minded grandfather leave her a property in ruins? Why are the neighboring plantation owners, the Davenants, so eager to acquire this estate? So eager that they invite Emily and her cousins to stay with them indefinitely. Emily finds herself bewitched by the beauty of the island, even as she's drawn into the personalities and politics of 40 years before. A tangled history of clandestine love, heartbreaking betrayal, and a bold bid for freedom. I love me some Lauren Willig. I just need to get around to this book. Okay, at least another book that I have read on this list, you guys. Like I mentioned, The Night Tiger is probably going to be my number 2 favorite book of the year, but this book, I think, is going to be my number 1 favorite of the year, and I'm glad this got nominated this year on Goodreads. That is The Huntress by Kate Quinn. Bold and fearless Nina Markova always dreamed of flying. When the Nazis attack the Soviet Union, she risks everything to join the legendary Night Witches, an all-female night bomber regiment wreaking havoc on the invading Germans. When she is stranded behind enemy lines, Nina becomes the prey of a lethal Nazi murderess known as the Huntress, and only Nina's bravery and cunning will keep her alive. Transformed by the horrors he witnessed from Omaha Beach to the Nuremberg trials, British war correspondent Ian Graham has become a Nazi hunter, yet one target eludes him, a vicious predator known as the Huntress. To find her, the fierce disciplined investigator joins forces with the only witness to escape the Huntress alive, the brazen cocksure Nina. But a shared secret could derail their mission unless Ina and Nina force themselves to confront it. Growing up in post-war Boston, 17-year-old Jordan McBride is determined to become a photographer. When her long widowed father unexpectedly comes home with a new fiancé, Jordan is thrilled. But there is something disconcerting about the soft-spoken German widow. Certain that danger is lurking, Jordan begins to delve into her new stepmother's past, only to discover that there are mysteries buried deep in her family's secrets that may threaten all Jordan holds dear. In this immersive, heart-wrenching story, Kate Quinn illuminates the consequences of war on individual lives and the price we pay to seek justice and truth. Seriously, I freaking love this book. You guys go watch my video review for it so I can share with you how much I loved it. And finally, the end of this video, guys, the last book here is Mrs. Everything by Jennifer Weiner. What is it about? This has a very small synopsis here. This is a smart, thoughtful, and timely exploration of two sisters' lives from the 1950s to the present, as they struggle to find their places and be true to themselves in a rapidly evolving world. Mrs. Everything is an ambitious, richly textured journey through history, and and her story as these two sisters navigate a changing America over the course of their lives. And yeah, this is just a really small synopsis. It's a shame there's not a much longer synopsis here. Goodreads, Jesus. So you guys, that is it for the 2019 Goodreads nominations for historical fiction this year. They all sound super awesome. Quite a number of them. I'm actually kind of pretty impressed with myself. There's quite a number of them that I do own the books, but I haven't read them yet, unfortunately. But I'm dying to read them. And I did at least read 2 of the books nominated this year, you guys. Yay! So, you guys, in the comments below, do you guys agree with the list of nominees this year? Are there others that you would have preferred on the list? Just let me know your thoughts down below. So that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye, guys.